Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gentle Yoga. I'm Micki, and welcome to the studio. My so fine studio is what I call it. I have today some props that we might use. You could either have just a tennis ball or a racquet ball, or you might have two tennis balls tied in a sock, and we can use that for a little bit of self massage. If you don't have those, no worries. You can always find other shapes and poses to take. So we'll set those off to the side for now. I also have two blocks, a strap, two bolsters, and a blanket. But again, improvise with what you have. So I love to start out in constructive rest pose, but you can always start however feels comfortable for you. So what I want you to know is that you should definitely modify anything to meet your needs. So what I'm going to suggest is with the blanket roll or with the blanket, you make a roll. And so you can make this a small roll or a thicker roll. And then what we're going to do is place that right. Oops. You can also actually, speaking of mats, which mine's in the way, you can also roll up the edge of your mat to make a roll. And that can be really nice. So we're going to place this right underneath the mid, where the mid and upper back meet. And you can find a place that feels comfortable. And then you can either bring your knees to tent together and maybe cactus your arms. And then just allow yourself to settle in. Maybe your knees are tented together and your feet are as wide as the mat, or you can bring the soles of your feet to touch. And open your knees wide. This is called a reclined butterfly shape. So feel free to find whatever works for you. Come into a comfortable place. You might either close down your eyes or soften your gaze. And just start to tune into your breath. You might start breathing in through the nose and maybe take a few audible sighs out through the mouth. Letting it all go. And as you begin to tune into your breath, go ahead and cultivate some gratitude, thanking yourself for showing up for your practice today. And you might have a sense that there's an intention for your practice, something you'd like to cultivate, or even something you'd like to release. And I do have a theme for today's class. For this month, we're talking about, today we're in a different theme. So we're doing one a week. So today we're actually going to talk about the second yama, which is called Satya. And that means truthfulness. So there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, and this is one of the 8 limbs of yoga. And these are basically yoga's instructions on how we should best interact with the world and ourselves. So I just have a short reading to get us started. This says, and this is from the book by Deborah Adele. The jewel of Satya, or truthfulness, isn't safe, but it is good. Truth has the power to right wrongs and end sorrows. It is fierce in its demands and magnanimous in its offerings. It invites us to places we rarely frequent and where we seldom know what the outcome will be. Truth demands integrity to life and to our own self that is more than not telling a simple lie. When we are real rather than nice, when we choose self-expression over self-indulgence, when we choose growth over the need for belonging, and when we choose fluidity over rigidity, we begin to understand the deeper dynamics of truthfulness. and we begin to taste the freedom and goodness of this jewel. So if any of those words speak to you, you might just allow them to wash over you. And then allow yourself to come back into your body, into your breath. If there was one particular word that stood out, you might imagine it as a glowing jewel. And allow it to plant itself at your heart center for this practice. You might imagine with each inhale, it's glowing brighter, filling up your whole body, radiating off of your skin. And then if your knees are open wide to the side, you can go ahead and scoop your hands down to maybe help press your thighs together, bringing the knees together. You can walk your feet as wide as the mat. You can either bring your arms out to rest at your sides or keep that cactus arm shape. And then with your next exhale, go ahead and allow the knees to float over to the left. And you might soften your gaze over to the right. Inhale to come back to center and exhale to switch sides. And go ahead and move at the pace of your own breath. And you might for today notice that there's not necessarily an end range that you have to achieve or get to, a destination, but just allow each movement to be fluid, enjoying the journey. If at any moment this blanket roll underneath your back feels like too much, you're welcome to scooch it out of the way. Go ahead and take one more nice deep breath on each side. And then when you feel balanced from left to right, go ahead and bring the knees back to center, and then you can bring the forearms and the elbows to touch. And then start to rotate, oscillate a little bit side to side. So you're rocking side to side in order to just move along that blanket roll if it's still there. And you might find it underneath another area of your back. And then open the arms out wide to the side in cactus arms, breathing into that area, softening against the roll, allowing the chin to slightly tuck towards the chest. Take another nice deep breath here. And if it would feel good, you can again start with those windshield wiper knees, allowing them to fall to one side, maybe turning the gaze in the opposite direction. Sending breath into any areas of tension or holding along the spine. And go ahead and take one more nice deep breath on each side. When you're ready, we'll meet back up in center with the knees and the nose, pointing both up towards the sky. You can walk the heels in a little bit towards the sit bones, and then go ahead and bring the forearms together so the fingertips are right in front of your face and the elbows are coming towards each other. And then once more, you can gently rock a little side to side, moving down the blanket roll so it's now lower on your spine. And this will be our last place. So we'll take a moment to pause here. You can open your arms back up into a T or into cactus arms. Go ahead and soften your gaze or close down your eyes, breathing into this area of the spine. And then if you'd like, you can take your windshield wiper legs here. Sending your breath into the hips, allowing the breath to cascade down the spine. Go ahead and take one more nice deep breath on each side. And then when you're ready, we'll come back to center. You can roll all the way onto one side and press yourself up into a seat. So we had all of these possible props for a little bit of back massage. So I thought we would use those. So you can set the blanket off to the side for now. And then maybe you're using the 2 tennis balls that are tied into a sock, or you might just be using 1 tennis ball. Either way, if you're using the one tied with a sock, you can scooch forward on your mat and then bring the tennis balls so that they're going to, each one is going to rest on either side of your spine and you have a gap in the middle. And then you can bring it right behind you, maybe underneath the shoulder blades, and allow yourself to lie back. If you have 1 tennis ball, you can just do one side at a time. So you might come to lie on your back and roll over to the right. Bring the ball with your left hand behind you to place in between your shoulder blade and your spine. And then just allow yourself a moment to relax back. You might either find stillness here, or you might find some gentle rocking movements. So if you have your feet on the mat, it might help you to glide up and down, using the ball to help massage along your spine. Take some nice deep breaths. And if you find that your thoughts are traveling to events of the past or plans for the future, you might just gently allow yourself a break from those thoughts. Maybe bringing yourself back to your intention for practice, or your breath and your sensations in the body, noticing them with compassion and curiosity. And if you're using 1 ball, you might go ahead and switch sides. You can feel free to explore any places that feel good. I find that area right between my shoulder blades and my spine is the place in my body that asks me to find a massage. So I might just take this moment to realize sometimes we have the tools. It's just about taking the time. That's what you've done for yourself today. So, yay. And I forgot to mention that if you don't have a ball, you could also do a little bit of massage with the block. So if you do have a block instead of a ball, or if you're ready to take a break from the ball, you might use the block. And what we're going to do is take that edge of the block and rest it right up against the nape of your neck. And then you can really find a nice gentle neck massage here by turning your gaze in one direction, gently, softly, and slowly, maybe coming back to center, and then turning your gaze in the opposite direction. And just gently gliding along the edge of the block, Noticing any areas of tension in the neck, and then allowing yourself to release that with the breath. So take a few more moments to explore any other self-massage areas that are feeling good for you. And then when you're ready, we'll set those props off to the side. You can come to lie on your back in a bridge prep shape. So we can rest our hands at our hips. And then with your next inhale, go ahead and reach the arms up past the ears. Float the fingertips so they're reaching right above your head. And then with your next exhale, we'll rainbow the hands all the way down to the ground. You can press into the ground and then press into the feet and inhale to lift up the hip points for bridge. On your next exhale, go ahead and allow the spine to gently cascade back down to the ground. And then we'll inhale to lift the arms up and overhead, reaching them past the ears. Exhale to rainbow the hands back down towards the hips. And then let's inhale to lift the hip points up into bridge. You can go ahead and take a few more rounds like this, just following the pace of your own breath. After your arms float up one more time, take a nice deep breath and then exhale to float them back down. And then we're going to hold our bridge for a few rounds of breath. You can do this with the block to make it supported. So if you have a block handy, you can bring that next to you. And then we'll walk the heels in, inhale to lift the hips. And if you're wanting a supported bridge, you might take the block on the low setting and slide it right underneath the sacrum for a little bit of support here. If you don't have a block, or if you want to hold the bridge for a more active stretch, you can go ahead and interlace the hands behind you, rocking a little side to side to bring the shoulder blades underneath the body. Once more, tucking the chin towards the chest. So you can either find a more active shape or a more passive shape. Just figuring out what you need today. Let's take one more nice deep breath, and then when you're ready, you can either remove the block or release your hands and go ahead and allow the spine to roll back down one vertebrae at a time. Let's go ahead and hug the knees in towards the chest, and you can gently rock a little side to side. You might go ahead and bring the hands onto the knees and start to draw a little circle with the knees massaging through the low back. And then when you're ready, we'll reverse the direction of the circles. And then you can bring your hands behind your thighs and either start to rock and roll up and down the length of the spine. Or if you prefer, you can just roll onto one side and come up to a seat. So we'll come up to a comfortable seated position, and then you can either find a pillow or maybe your blanket, although if you have a cat sitting on your blanket, you might not like to move the cat, to increase your seat so you're sitting up a little taller. Another option that I really like is to stack two blocks and sit in a hero's pose. So I bring the 2-block stack in between my ankles, and then you can sit back on the heel, with your sit bones towards your heels. So find your comfortable seat, whatever feels like it's going to work best for you today. And go ahead and close down the eyes for a moment. Take a nice deep breath. Bring your awareness back to your intention. And then with your next exhale, you can gently bow your head towards your heart. Let's interlace the fingers now, and you can bring your interlaced hands to gently rest on your head. So you're not pushing or forcing, you're just kind of giving yourself a little bit of assistance in your stretch by just allowing the weight of gravity. And then with your next inhale, let's flutter the eyes open, and you can bring the head back up with your hands interlaced behind your head. And we're just going to do a little simple neck stretch here. So with your next exhale, go ahead and turn your gaze over towards your left elbow, and you'll start to point your left elbow up towards the sky, and your right elbow is going to come down to point in front. And then inhale to come back to center, and exhale will switch sides. So you're turning your head and your gaze over to the right, pointing the right elbow up towards the sky, and that left elbow is going to stick out in front. And if that feels good, you can go ahead and try that maybe a few more times, gently turning the gaze side to side. Resting your hands, your head gently on your hands. Let's take one more round on each side. Once you come back to center, you can release your breath and release your hands back onto your lap. Now, hopefully you have some kind of item that you can use for a strap. And if not, you can always use like even the back of your shirt, really. So we're going to do what's called cow face arms. And so you can bring a strap into one hand. We're going to stretch both arms out wide to the side, and then bring the hand with the strap up and over. So now the strap is cascading down your spine. Your elbow is up towards the sky. And then the hand that doesn't have the strap, you're going to rotate that thumb down. So now you see the back of my hand, and then you can bend into that elbow to reach around behind you to grasp hold of the strap. You can walk your hands together, lengthen through the back of your neck. And you might even just notice, can you soften 10% more? So maybe you don't have to go to your quite edge. You don't have to bring your hands together to clasp. And so if you don't have that strap, like I was mentioning, you can just grasp hold of your shirt at the top and at the bottom, or use a towel or any other item that just helps you reach the hands together. And then with your next exhale, you might turn your gaze past your left shoulder. So now you're looking over your left shoulder. That's the elbow, that's the hand that's down. And then with your next exhale, you might bow your head towards your left side. So gazing down maybe at your left thigh, just to find a gentle stretch for the neck. We'll take one more nice deep breath here, and then you can bring the gaze back to center. Release the strap, bring the hands back into the lap, soften the gaze, just tune in your awareness into your shoulders, noticing how they feel, any sensations. And then we're going to get ready to switch sides. So you can bring the strap now into your left hand. We'll reach the arms out wide to the sides. Bring the left hand up and over so the elbows pointing up towards the sky. And then you can rotate that right thumb down towards the ground so your palm is facing back towards the back wall. Bend into the elbow and you can walk the hands together using the strap. So you're basically pulling the strap into two different directions. You can allow yourself to soften so you don't have to be vigorously pulling or holding on too tightly. With your next exhale, you might turn your gaze past your right shoulder. That's the arm that's down. And just allow for a gentle stretch for the neck. And then with your next exhale, you might bow your gaze down towards your right side body. Gazing down at the ground. Once more, finding a nice gentle stretch through the neck. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then with your next exhale, you can come back to center. We'll release the strap. And you can set that off to the side. Let's go ahead and come onto hands and knees next. Since I got my blanket roll back from my cat, I will go ahead and use that to pad underneath the knees. So you can take the blanket into a rectangle and then come onto hands and knees. So your palms are underneath your shoulders, your knees are underneath your hips. And we'll take a few rounds of cat and cow here. So you can inhale to drop the belly, exhale to round into the spine. Go ahead and take as many rounds as feels good to you. And take your time following your breath. Maybe you start to draw a circle with the belly button. Or feel free to explore any other movements that might feel good here. As you move the spine, tune into sensations that are arising. And you might also start to cultivate gratitude for the strong, healthy spine and all the different directions that it can move. We'll take one more breath in whichever direction you're moving. And if you were drawing a circle with the belly button, go ahead and reverse the direction. We'll come back and meet up in a neutral spine, and you can start to draw your belly button towards your spine to feel some activation in the core. With your next exhale, go ahead and turn your gaze over your right shoulder and bend your hip towards your shoulder. And then we'll inhale back to center, exhale to switch sides. You can go ahead and wag the tail side to side. And then when you're ready, we'll meet back in center and you can go ahead and bring the big toes to touch. Open the knees up wide, sink the hips back, walk the hands out in front to find child's pose. In your child's pose, you might take a nice deep breath and maybe exhale through the mouth. Even sticking out the tongue for lion's breath. And if you'd like to take a supported child's pose, you're welcome to find a pillow or a bolster to rest underneath the torso. And if you're coming into a supported child's pose, you might turn your gaze in one direction and then halfway through switch directions. Allow yourself a moment to soften down to the earth, feeling the earth rise to support you. And if you're resting one cheek on a blanket or a bolster, you can go ahead and turn your gaze in the opposite direction. Fill the back of your body with breath. We'll take one more nice deep breath in your child's pose. And then you can come back up to hands and knees. And if you were using a bolster, just go ahead and set it off to the side. We're going to come back into our tabletop, but you can go ahead and keep your knees wide, your toes touching. We're going to find thread the needle. So this time you might bring your right fingertips to the base of your right ear. And then when you inhale, you can point the elbow up towards the sky. And then exhale, turn the elbow down towards the left wrist. And let's try that 2 more times. So inhale to lift the elbow up. Exhale to bring the elbow down towards the wrist. One more time, just like this. And then when you're ready, you can release your hand from your ear and we'll thread the needle under, coming onto the right shoulder, allowing the right temple to rest. And you can continue to support your weight here with your left hand, or walk the left hand out in front like child's pose. Or maybe spin the left hand around and allow it to gently rest at your low back. Take some nice deep breaths here. Feeling into any sensations. Sending your breath into the shoulder. Curving the breath around the twist in your spine. Take one more nice deep breath, and then you can land that left hand, and we'll bring the right hand back to tabletop. From here, we're going to switch sides so you can bring the left fingertips to the edge of your left ear, and then inhale to lift the elbow up towards the sky, gazing up, and exhale to rotate the elbow down towards the right wrist. Try that 2 more times. And then when you're ready on that last round, you can weave the left hand underneath the right, coming onto the left shoulder, allowing the left temple to rest, and either supporting your weight here with your right hand or walking the right hand out in front like child's pose, or maybe spinning the right hand around and allowing it to rest at your low back. Remembering that you always have options and choices. You can always do what works best for you and your body. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then when you're ready, you can land your right hand, press into your right hand, And we'll come back up to a tabletop. From here, we're going to bring the knees back underneath the hips. And you can tuck the toes under and start to walk the hands back. Maybe bringing the hands into fists. So you're kind of coming into a squat. This is actually called broken toe pose, but you can stay on your knees. I forgot to mention that you could bring your blocks with you too. So if you have your blocks handy or you have blocks, you can bring your hands onto blocks. So you're starting to sink your hips back towards your heels. And really getting a nice gentle stretch. Well, maybe not so gentle, pretty intense stretch underneath the feet. At any moment, you can find what's right for you, but you can feel free to walk it forward, untuck the toes, and give your feet a gentle tap. And then from here, we will come back to our tabletop position. And now you can extend your right leg back, tuck the toes under, and press the heel towards the mat. You might like to be on fists, or you might like to come onto your forearms for this. Feel free to explore either option. Send some nice deep breaths down the back of the calf. And then we'll switch sides so you can come into tabletop again, and then extend the left leg back, tuck the toes under, and press the heel towards the mat. Allow the breath to cascade down the back of the leg. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then we'll come back to tabletop, and we're going to walk the knees back. Now we are going to be coming onto the belly, so if you don't want to have the blanket underneath you, you can always move it off to the side. But we can try for either a plank on your knees, so your knees are back a little bit further, or you can tuck the toes under and lift the knees for a high plank. So feel free to explore either option. Whenever you feel ready, we'll gently lower down onto our bellies and come into Sphinx Pose. So that's with the elbows underneath the shoulders and your palms down on the mat. And Sphinx Pose can feel like a nice back bend. Once you arrive in your Sphinx Pose, you might take a moment to inhale, drawing the elbows up towards the shoulder, or the shoulders up towards the ears, and then exhale to round the shoulders back and down. In your Sphinx, you can press on the mat with your hands. Start to drag your hands back as you reach your heart forward. Now we'll bring the left hand and the forearm out in front so it's parallel with the front of your mat. You're still staying lifted. You can bend into your right knee, and then maybe you reach around with your right hand to grasp hold of the ankle. You can't quite reach, that's okay too. And you could also just stay here and just turn your gaze over your shoulder. So find whichever position works for you. Take a nice deep breath. With your next exhale, you can gently release that side. And then if you want, you can come back into your Sphinx Pose, and maybe you just turn your gaze over your left shoulder. If you'd like to do that quad stretch, you can bring the right forearm so it's parallel to the front of your mat. Reach around with your left hand, grasp hold of the top of your foot, maybe, or just reach for it. And find a nice gentle twist here. And then whenever you're ready, we'll release that side. You can stack your palms and lower your forehead down to the back of your hands. And this pose is called Crocodile Pose, Makrasana. You can stay right here, or you might bend into your knees, point your heels up towards the sky, and then gently rock the heels side to side. If you're rocking your heels, you can bring them back to center. Go ahead and unbend the knees so you're straightening the legs. The top of the feet are on the mat. And then we'll release the hands so that the hands are now coming next to your hips, and you can turn your gaze over to one direction. So let's start with the gaze over to the right, I guess, so we'll all be on the same page. And that means your left temple will be resting on the mat. If it's hard for it to reach, you could always bring a block under the temple and rest there. Take a nice deep breath and then soften into the earth. Allow yourself to really luxuriate in this time of rest. And then whenever you're ready, we'll take a nice deep breath, and on your inhale, you can float the gaze forward, lift the arms, lift the legs, come into a flying superhero shape where you're balancing on your belly. Keep a soft gaze down at the edge of your mat for length through the back of your neck. And we'll take a few nice deep breaths here. And then whenever you're ready, you can turn your gaze to the left, and this time soften all of your effort. Allow your right temple to rest on the mat or on a block. And once more, allow yourself this opportunity to delight in a time of rest. Thinking about how in our life we can balance the ideas of effort and ease. And then from here, we're going to do a shoulder opener, and chest opener. You might have the block again for underneath your head. And so what we'll do is with the arms behind you, you can bring them out to a letter T shape. So it's like you're giving the ground a nice big hug. And then you're going to walk your right fingertips directly behind you as you roll onto your right side, opening through the chest and the shoulder. And you could either allow your right temple to rest, or maybe you put a block underneath your head for a little support. And you can stay right here, especially if you're noticing sensation in the shoulder. You might not want to deepen the stretch anymore, but if you feel that you'd like to explore that, you could bend into your left leg and plant the left foot behind you. Or another option would be to reach down with your left hand to grasp hold of your left ankle, and then allow the left knee to soften down towards the right knee. Send a nice deep breath into the areas of sensation, tuning your awareness into the body. With your next exhale, you can release the bind, releasing your foot if it was in your hand. We'll roll back onto the belly, and this time we'll get ready for the left side. So you can creep your left fingertips behind you, roll onto your left side. Maybe you bring a pillow or a block or your blanket to rest underneath your head, your temple, or you could possibly rest your head on the ground. You can either leave the legs stacked And just focus your awareness on maybe your shoulder or your chest, wherever you're feeling the sensations. You might bend into that right knee and step the right foot behind you to deepen the stretch. Or you could reach down with your right hand to grasp hold of your ankle and allow the top knee to float over the bottom knee. Finding a stretch through the quad. Send some nice deep breaths into the shoulder, into the chest. You might soften your gaze or close down your eyes. And we'll take one more nice deep breath here. And with your next exhale, you can release your foot if it's in your hand. And then go ahead and roll back onto your belly. Let's move the blocks out of the way. And we'll plant the palms underneath the shoulders. You can tuck your toes under and press up through table or plank. And then either find a child's pose or a downward facing dog. So if you're ready for downward facing dog, you can plant your palms a little forward of your shoulders, tuck your toes under, press your hips up and back, lengthen through your spine. Then maybe start to sashay your hips a little side to side, pedaling your heels. You can also use the blocks underneath your hands to make this pose a little easier. Take a nice deep breath in whichever shape you found for yourself today. And then we're going to meet up in a forward fold. So if you have that blanket in the way, you might slide it off to the side and then walk your hands to your feet or your feet to your hands and come into a forward fold. Go ahead and wrap your hands around your opposite elbows and just allow yourself to hang heavy, maybe gently ragdoll side to side. And then if you have your blocks handy, you can bring those right underneath the hands. We'll release the hands from that clasp. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale for halfway lift with a flat back. Now you can also press your palms into your shins. Either way. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale for halfway lift. And exhale to forward fold. Let's do one more round like that. And then with your next inhale, go ahead and bend into the knees and we'll sweep the hands up and overhead. Exhale to draw the hands to the heart center. Inhale to reach. Exhale to release. And one more time like this. You can release your hands to your sides. And then we're going to make our way into a wide-legged stance. So you're going to come to the long edge of your mat. Once more, you can bring some blocks with you if that's helpful. And then from here, we'll come into what's called five-pointed star. So you can reach your hands out wide to the side and then reach them towards the corners of the room. So you're making yourself nice and wide, taking up space. And then with your next exhale, you can float your hands down and either bring them to your hips, or if it feels okay, you could interlace them behind you. So they're interlaced at your low back. With your next exhale, we're going to hinge at the hips, lead with the heart, And allow yourself to fold forward. You could leave your hands interlaced at your low back, or if it feels okay for your shoulders, you might gently reach your knuckles up towards the sky, just allowing for the weight of gravity, not forcing anything. Take one more nice deep breath like this. And then with your next exhale, you can soften your hands back to your low back. Release your fingers. Allow them to cascade down the back of the legs. And then we'll reach the hands out in front underneath the shoulders, either on your blocks or on the mat. And we can inhale here for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And one more time like this. And then on your next exhale, go ahead and stay in your halfway lift. So you're lengthening your spine forward. We're going to bring our right hand in front of our face. And then you can take your left arm and float it up towards the sky. So you're rotating gently, your chest open, reaching the hand up towards the sky. On the next exhale, float that hand down in front, and you can cross it over to reach towards your right foot. And then we'll try that 2 more times. So inhale, sweep the left hand up towards the sky, opening through the heart. Exhale to weave the hand underneath the body. Go ahead and take your own pace. One more round on this side. And then we can soften back down into our forward fold. And we'll inhale here for halfway lift. And you can stay in the halfway lift. And when you're ready, you can bring your hand, your right hand, to float up towards the sky, reaching the fingertips up. And then exhale to float it down, reaching your hand across towards your left foot. Try that 2 more times, gently following the pace of your own breath. You might follow your fingertips with your gaze. And after you complete that side, we can come back into our forward fold. And then bring your hands onto your hips. You can bend into your knees and then lift your torso back up to center. With your hands on your hips, go ahead and pivot. So now your toes are coming out to 45 degrees. We're coming into basically what's called a goddess squat or a horse pose. So you can bend into your knees, sink the sit bones down, and then maybe you inhale to bring your arms into cactus arms, opening through the heart and opening through the chest. On your next inhale, go ahead and straighten your legs, reach your fingertips up towards the sky, and then exhale. Exhale out through the mouth, sticking out the tongue, coming back into your goddess squat. And we'll take 2 more rounds like that. Inhale to reach it tall. Exhale, goddess squat. And one more time. And then we'll go ahead and stay in this goddess squat for a moment. If you want to play around a little bit with balance here, on your next inhale, you might just lift the right heel to hover off of the mat. And then exhale to gently lower that heel. On the next inhale, you can hover your left heel up above the mat. So I'm just lifting my heel to hover, and then exhale to lower. Maybe you try one more side to side, or inhale to lift both heels to hover. On the next exhale, lower your heels. You can bring your hands back to your hips, and then we'll walk the feet into center. Just take a moment to shake that off so you can allow yourself to gently wave your arms side to side, allow them to graze your sides. And then we'll come back to the long edge of our mat, or facing the front of our mat. And let's inhale here for upward salute. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale for halfway lift. And exhale to forward fold. You can walk your hands out in front or step your feet back to find your downward facing dog. And then gently lower your knees when you're ready. We'll walk the knees forward and come to sit on our backside, our sit bones. From here, go ahead and bring the soles of your feet together to touch. You can inhale to lengthen through your spine, and then exhale to forward fold, walking your hands forward. You can start out with a flat back, or whenever you're ready, you can exhale to allow yourself to fold forward. You could use some blocks to support your forehead here. Or you could also use a bolster if you have that. So take some nice deep breaths here. And then whenever you're ready, you can press your palms into the earth to walk yourself back to center. Let's take one leg out. So I'm going to take my right leg out, bring the left sole of the foot to the inner thigh, and then you can turn your gaze over towards your right foot. Take a moment to admire your cute little foot, wiggle your toes, and then you can walk yourself down so you're folding over towards your right leg. You can use your hands to frame your foot or walk your hands out onto your leg or onto your toes. We'll take one more nice deep breath here. And then when you're ready, you can walk it back to center. Let's go ahead and bring our torso forward. We'll inhale the arms up towards the sky. And then exhale, bring your right hand to rest on your right leg. Your left hand is up and overhead, and then you can start to bend over so that your heart is reaching up towards the sky, but you're gliding your right hand down your right leg. Maybe you send your gaze up towards your left hand. Or if that's too much for the neck, you can always look forward or look down. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then on your next inhale, we'll rise to center. And then exhale, turn to the left. So you're bringing your right hand onto your left knee. Maybe you bring a block behind you just to make the ground come up to you, and you can stack your left hand onto the block. Turn your gaze over your shoulder. And then on the next exhale, you can allow just the chin to trace the front of the chest and turn just your gaze past the right shoulder. When you're ready, we'll release that. You can come back to center, and then let's switch sides. So we're going to extend the left leg, bring the right foot in to meet the inner thigh. Turn to gaze at your left toes, your left foot. Maybe wiggle your little toes. And then you can start to hinge at the hips, walk the hands forward, bowing your head towards your knee. You can either use your hands to frame your ankle or your shin, or walk your hands onto your leg, or maybe reach the hands out towards the toes, whatever feels best for you. Take another nice deep breath here. And then when you're ready, we'll walk the hands back up to center. You can inhale the arms up overhead, and then exhale, glide the left hand down the left leg and reach the right arm up and over, maybe turning the gaze up towards the hand or out in front or down towards the ground. You might just explore what feels right for you. Allow the breath to cascade down the right side of the body from the fingertips all the way down to the hip. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale to rise back to center. Exhale, we're going to twist to the right this time. So bring your left hand onto your right knee, and you might bring a block behind you. Finding a twist, sending the gaze behind the right shoulder. With your next exhale, you can allow your head to start to bow towards your heart as you allow your chin to gently trace the front of your chest. And I don't mean that your chin is necessarily touching your chest, just moving towards that direction. And then you can turn just your gaze past your left shoulder. When you're ready, you can release your twist. And then we're going to be heading towards our final resting pose, Savasana. So if there are any last shapes that you want to take before your final rest, feel free to explore those now. For Savasana, you might like to rest with a blanket on the body, or maybe you have an article of clothing you can rest over the eyes. You could also use this time for a gentle inversion. So if you have a couch or a wall space and you'd like, you can either rest your legs up on the couch cushion or rest your legs up the wall. This can be a nice gentle inversion to allow for a little bit of the reverse flow of gravity in the body. Allowing the lymph nodes to drain. And as you make your way into your comfortable resting position, whatever that might be, let's take a moment to come back to our intention for class. So I'm going to revisit the yamas and the niyamas. And today's yama is called Satya, which means truthfulness. So as you begin to settle in, allow your forehead to soften. You might close down the eyes or soften your gaze. Relax the hinge of your jaw. Allow your shoulders to rest heavy on the earth. And you can allow your breath to breathe you, releasing control, trusting your nervous system to support you, feeling the rise and fall of your breath, and sinking into the earth. Here's a short reading about Truthfulness Satya by Deborah Adele from the book The Yamas and the Niyamas. She says, people who are nice hold truth inside of them until they reach a breaking point, and then they become dangerously inappropriate. I know because I used to be such a person. Real comes from the center of our unique essence and speaks to the moment from that center. Real has a boldness to it, an essence, a spontaneity. Real asks us to live from a place where there is nothing to defend and nothing to manage. It is a contact with the moment that is not superseded or prepackaged. We come to know there will be no surprises. Real is trustworthy. So, what is driving you to distort yourself or silence yourself or say yes when you mean no? Carl Jung would ask, what is so dangerous in the moment about the truth that we are choosing to lie? These are the questions that merit our pondering. We are here on this earth to self-express in a way that no one else ever has or ever could. Living the life that cries to be lived from the depth of our being frees up a lot of energy and vitality. The juices flow. Everyone around us benefits from the aliveness that we feel. As you begin to allow those words to wash over you, just like your thoughts, you can imagine them as beautiful, graceful butterflies. Just allow them to gently dissipate, knowing the ones that you really need will come back at exactly that right moment. You might notice that your body is making a unique impression on the earth, feeling the earth rise to meet you. And one more time, you might offer yourself gratitude for showing up today, and to remember that we are here on this earth to self-express in a way no one else ever has or ever could. You can start to deepen your breath. And start to bring your awareness back to your heart center in that jewel of an intention you set at the beginning of class. Once more, you might notice with each inhale, it's growing brighter. And allow it to fade with the exhale. Recognizing that need for balance, the effort and the ease, the light and the dark. Allow yourself to feel the light shining throughout your body, glowing off of your skin. And then take a moment to zoom your awareness out into the universe. Gazing back at your form, resting on the earth, supported. You might take a moment to acknowledge with awe and wonder what a miracle it is to be alive and here together in this time and space. And then you can start to deepen your breath, bringing your awareness back into your body. With each inhale, imagining your heart center growing in all directions, increasing your capacity to give and receive love from your heart. And then start to invite some movement into your fingers and into your toes, gently rotating your wrists and your ankles. When you're ready, you can stretch your arms past your ears and find a long body stretch from your fingertips to your toes. And then you can roll onto one side, finding a fetal position, resting your head on your biceps. And then pressing yourself up to a seat when you're ready. You might invite your hands to meet at your heart center. And allow your head to gently bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart. It's such an honor and a privilege to have this opportunity to guide you through your practice this morning. Thank you for joining me. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, which means peace, peace, peace. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, that was great.